New moon, welcome to Midnight Shadows. New moon. As the darkness settles in and the lights begin to dim, prepare yourself for a journey into the unknown, where the unexplained awaits. Tonight, I bring you 6 tales of real-life supernatural encounters, nightmares that seep into reality. If you've ever experienced something eerie and wish to share your story, don't hesitate. Check the description below for my email address. I'd love to preserve your stories in the Midnight Shadows archives. As always, if you enjoy hearing these true ghost stories, be sure to subscribe so you won't miss the mysteries that lie ahead. Tonight, we'll start with a chilling case that, while unsettling, offers us a surprisingly comforting ghost. Let's delve into the shadows together. Story than some of the darker experiences we often cover. Here, so let's get started with the first case. Back in 2009, my dad was on holiday in Greece. While he was there, he kept finding piles of 47 little gemstones in his hotel bed. He would put them to one side, trying to explain it away as the housekeeper or something similar. This continued happening after he got home from holiday. However, every day he would end up finding 47 beads and gems in his bed. Fast forward a few months, and he had a routine chest x-ray, which found lung cancer. Further investigation found it in his spine and lymph system, so he was a terminal case. 47 beads and gems still continued. Now, when I visited, I would hear someone walking upstairs. I would go and look, and there would be a fresh pile of gems and beads on his bed. I spoke to it and asked it to put a bead in my wallet if it was there to comfort and look after my dad. A bead was left on my wallet that night. This went on for 3 years. I kept asking it to look after my old man, and a bead would be left to show it and hurt me. The last 9 months got more intense, though. My aunt was visiting and was awoken by a woman weeping in the corner of the room. She was so scared she couldn't move. She closed her eyes, but it got louder and louder until she felt the hair touch her cheek and the sobbing right in her ear. Then it left as quickly as it arrived. The same night, I had a woman appear in my bedroom. I thought it was my wife until I looked down and saw she was asleep in bed. Again, it disappeared as quickly as it arrived. My old man started to get worse, but the beads were still coming. One night, a few months later, I had a vivid dream of a man in a brightly lit room who told me that I needed to stop asking them for help. They had done all they could, and other things were starting to notice me. That morning, I woke up with beads on my wallet as if to confirm what I had dreamed the night before. My dad passed, and I had 2 pink heart-shaped stones left on my wallet. After that, I had a couple more single stones left, and on one occasion, where the woman I had seen by my bed was coming through again, I told it had to leave. There was the sound of heavy feet running down the hall and stairs, then the fire alarms in the house went off at the same time. That was the end of it. I love encounters that take place on dark roads, those incidents where you aren't too sure if your eyes are playing tricks on you or if you are witnessing something that shouldn't be possible. I'm thinking about doing an entire video of stories about haunted roads. If that's something you're interested in, then please let me know in the comments below. But for now, let's get into our next case. I'll tell you a story. This is something I witnessed, not experienced. I live in a rural area, a residential zone far away from the city. I've lived here for 26 years now. To get to the place, you need to follow through a very long road out of the city into the rural area, not the roads we see in movies, but a normal bumpy cemented road with a lot of tight turns near the end of it. So, more or less 24 years ago, if I remember correctly, right in the last turn of this road, a biker got run over by one of the residents. The guy was drunk and invaded the other lane, killing the guy from the bike on the spot. People left crosses there for a couple of weeks, but eventually, it was removed. Now, I always come back home from work at night, and usually, there's 1 or 2 cars in front of me the whole way. There are people coming home too. This particular day, there was a car in front of me the whole way that I recognized from one of the families that moved into the area more or less 3 years ago. It was the older daughter of the couple. She was 19 at the time, so everything was normal all the way until that last turn where the guy died. The girl in front of me was driving fine until eventually she hit the brakes hard in the middle of the road and tossed the car full blast into the other lane like she was dodging something, almost hitting a tree. I stopped my car and ran to her car to ask if everything was okay. The poor girl was frozen solid, panicking in her car with tears in her eyes, asking if she had run him over. The moment she said that, it hit me like a hammer right in the guts, even more so because there was absolutely nothing on the road. I didn't want to make things worse, so I just said no. I saw the dog running away. We just stood there for a couple of minutes while she explained to me there was a man in the street and she had tried to dodge him. I kept telling her that since there was no light on the road, she must have been confused and that she could just be tired, and that it was a dog, until eventually, she calmed down and I escorted her to her home. The next morning, her dad came to my door and asked me about what happened. I explained to him what she had said and what happened up there so long ago. The look in the man's eyes spoke more than anything he could say to me. I don't know if he told her what I told him, but one thing is clear to me, that girl saw the ghost of the guy that died there 24 years ago in the exact same spot. Well, at least that's what I believe. I'm going to take a visit to a house with hundreds of years of history behind it. Be sure to check out the description if you want to learn more about this location. The witness has a story to share about the Tilden house. My family had a house built along with 2 other families on an extremely old farm. All 3 families experienced the same paranormal stuff, and no one told each other for a couple of years. It was 3 new houses in the back and the original farmhouse up front. In the 5 years I lived there, 3 families lived in the farmhouse because no one could stand it. It was called Sam Tilden Farm, and it was built on old Native American lands a very long time ago. They closed it down after Sam killed himself. I guess there are a number of tragedies on the farm, and Sam may have drunk himself into insanity. When it came to the farmhouse, there were a bunch of issues that kept families from staying. The barn light had to stay on at dusk, or stuff would happen like out of a movie, pictures falling off walls, glass breaking, doors slamming. The one story I remember was that the barn light died while they were away. When they got back, all the pictures in the hallway fell down at once. Seems a little far-fetched, but these people didn't even last a year at the new houses. You could hear a tapping from the attics. It was really loud and sounded like someone tapping their foot. I forgot who figured it out, but someone decided to yell, "Sam, stop tapping," and it would stop. Sometimes you could hear what sounded like large animals running up and down the stairs, but faster than a large animal would be able to run. They'd go up, down, up, down, up, down. A few people said they heard what sounded like 20 brooms all falling and hitting the hardwood at once, along with female voices and singing from the garages. The girl in the middle house asked why my sister was out in the front yard in the middle of the night in a white nightgown, but we kind of think she was full of. Who knows? There was a bunch of. I don't really recall now that I'm thinking about it. There was a Tilden tombstone inside the barn for some reason, not sure if that's just normal. I guess the Tildens were among the first settlers in the area. We also had a basin of sorts in the backyard. My mom started digging for it, and she found lots of pottery and arrowheads, all Native American. I guess it was a native site until the end of the. It sounds like I was a non-believer for a long time, but eventually, it got to be too much, and I couldn't deny it anymore. A brief visit from a lost soul 11 years ago, during my brother's first deployment overseas, changed everything. I was sitting in my living room when I looked down the hall and saw someone standing there. About the same time, I saw a black mark on my arm and glanced down, it was gone. When I looked up, so was the person. My dad came home later and told me that a guy in my brother's unit was killed. He showed me the guy's picture, and I immediately knew it was him. That's not my only story, but it's the first one I usually think about. The next witness apparently had a number of paranormal encounters throughout their life, so we may be hearing more stories from them in the future. But for now, we're taking a trip to Lake George. I moved to upstate New York in 2000, specifically to Lake George. History buffs notice it as an important area during the French and Indian War, with France versus Britain using natives as soldiers and cannon fodder. The last of the Mohicans took place around here. As a reference, there is one fort at the end of each lake. One is famous for a turning point in the war, and the other is infamous for the horrific slaughter of surrendered British troops by natives who did not agree with the gentleman's agreement of surrender. This fort is literally the center of the village of Lake George, located on Battlefield Park and next to a road named Bloody Pond. There's a separate story on this name, and it's definitely earned, so it's an intense area for sure. Now, my great-grandfather bought property and developed a marina on Lake George in 1908. I moved to this property with my family to run our business in 2000. The property is literally between Fort William Henry and Bloody Pond Road. They are both in visual sight of our house and docks. My first supernatural experience at the property happened during my senior year of high school. I was in the upstairs living room of the main house, and out the windows on the right, about 50 feet away, is another house for our family that we call the Crawford House. When my aunt passed in 1975, my grandmother walked out of the house and locked it, never to go back. No joke, this house sat untouched until 2002 when we decided to reopen it. The dirty dishes were still in the sink. There was mail on the table from 1975. It was a trip for my teenage brain, and I wish I knew how much cool stuff she had. Anyway, fast forward to 2003. I'm 17 years old and watching a movie with my 24-year-old big brother upstairs in the main house when I look out and see a light on upstairs in the other house. We had just begun the long process of going through every single item in this 3-story house about a month before, and it immediately gave me a freaky and uncomfortable feeling, but I just assumed it was a reflection from a light in our house. I didn't say anything to my brother. I kept glancing at it with confusion and fear for like 5 minutes. Suddenly, my brother yells out, "Why the hell is there a light on upstairs in the Crawford house?" I was like, "No way. I thought I was seeing things, but it is inside the house, right?" He agreed, and the moment we both looked out the windows again, it wasn't there. We were confused and joking about it being a ghost from our family or maybe a spirit from the Mohawk tribe when, 2 minutes later, it came on again. So he said we should go check it out in case someone broke in, but I was not going. I said, "Let them take whatever they want, that light was a lamp, not a flashlight." I knew the goddamn power to this place wasn't set up. It literally wasn't on the grid for the town of Newer Systems because she shut the place off in 1975. He made me go, mean big brother tactics. We entered through the closed and locked front door into a silent, pitch-black house. We made our way through the open layout, around a corner, and into the common room. When we got to the first step of the staircase, about to go up, I immediately noped and started heading for the front door. Now, I didn't run, but I was definitely moving quick. As I got to the doorway, the same door we came in from, I heard the clear voice of a man in my left ear say, "Take your leave." I fucking screamed and ran the remaining 2 feet out the door. I turned around to see my brother walk from all the way around the corner into the open space towards me at the door. There was no way it could have been him from where he was. He told me to stay outside, and he went through the house alone. They found nothing and no one. He said he didn't hear a voice like me. He was terrified. It took 10 minutes to search each room, closet, and space where someone could hide. Let's wrap up tonight with a good old-fashioned haunting. This happened to a friend of mine quite a long time ago, even before WhatsApp was invented and smartphones were still a rarity, the time when we were still charged a few cents just to send an SMS. Anyway, this friend, we'll call him Jay, was a fresh grad who got a job offer in a college town. He didn't know anyone in the town, so he looked up ads for a room to rent and found one in an apartment block. The majority of the apartments in the block were rented by students, even his neighbors. His apartment had 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, and he got the master room with an attached bathroom. His housemates were 4 undergrad students, but he only dealt with one of them, whom we should call R. He paid all the rent and bills through R, but he wasn't close with the others, just enough to remember their names, small talk here and there. In the second month, Jay was assigned to the night shift, from 12 a.m. to 12 p.m., with 3 off days per week. So, most of the time, he just came home straight to his room and slept all day. He didn't even have lunch at the house, and on his 3 days off, he went back to his hometown, so he rarely stepped out of his room. However, he knew his housemates were still around because he could hear the little sounds they made, the sound of water running from the shower outside, someone cooking in the kitchen, people talking and watching TV in the living room. He was too tired to mingle with them, and his housemates didn't seem to care. The rent was due on the first day of the month, and he paid in cash to R. So he messaged R and asked if they could meet up at the house. But R told him that he and the rest of his housemates had already moved out on the second week of the previous month, coincidentally when Jay started his 12-hour night shifts. The house had been empty all this time. For some reason, they were in a hurry to move out. They thought, well, maybe the landlord would inform Jay, but he completely forgot about Jay. Jay was in disbelief and surprised. He told me what he had heard in the house. I told him that weird things happened to them, and what happened the night they decided to leave the house really broke their last straw. R's friends even lost their rent deposits, but they didn't care. I didn't elaborate further, but he wanted Jay to move out as quickly as possible. Jay did that. He stayed in a cheap motel for a week before he found another place. In the end, after unsettling experiences in the abandoned family house, the young adult found the strength to confront the mysteries of his lineage. As the lights flickered and the eerie voice urged him to leave once more, he realized that he was not just haunted by the past, but was also on a mission to uncover it. With renewed determination, he decided to delve deeper into his family's history, not only to escape the ghostly presence, but to reconnect with his roots. Stepping out of the house, he felt no longer afraid, but filled with hope, as if the light from the past was guiding him toward a new beginning. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more chilling tales from Midnight Shadows, don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment below. We'd love to know your thoughts on today's story and what eerie experiences you want to hear next. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again on our next adventure into the mysterious world.